Almost like love that's here now for each of us. It's almost like love that's just intrinsically here. And what's your word for love? Is there a different word? Is it tenderness, nurture, care? And what's it like? What's it like to be that, to let it have you? What's it like to let love have you? When you feel your body right now, can you find the frequency, the vibration of that? Whatever this love is for you. Then let's just start off with some flavors of this beingness of self. So there's love, and then often my friend Jack will know it more as equanimity, as spaciousness, as stillness, as this pure being. What's most like that for you here? What's most like stillness, spaciousness, emptiness? And can you let that have you? Can that pervade and fill you? What's it like to be stillness, spacious, emptiness? And then there's my friend Sarah, who often she just can't help it. There's a joy that just bubbles. It's just a bubbling joy, a bubbling aliveness. Or like Milo and I use this word fire for it. What what's like that in your system? This joy, this fire, this aliveness. Can you find that as something that's intrinsic, that doesn't need to be caused, that you don't need to have Sarah speaking to you to bring that out? It's just here, a joy, an aliveness, a spark, a fire. And what's it like to let that have you, to let that pervade this body of ours, to be that? How is it different? How do you know that's here? How's it different? How's your experience of your body different when it's this aliveness, this fire, this fullness? Let's just do a couple more. And you might be like, no, Sid, that's not it for me yet. Those qualities, those are nice. I enjoy those, but my default is different. Is that true for you? Your default might be different than those. Like when I'm with my friend Eli right now, it goes someplace different. It goes more to peace, but not like the emptiness of peace. What's like a fullness of peace to you? What's peace as fullness? Fullness of peace. Fullness of peace, like peace that has an aliveness to it. You might have a different word for this. And at the end, I'll ask us each, like, what's most alive for each of us as a quality of being, but so this peace. And then my experience of Raymond is more like sometimes people speak of this awareness of self as a sense of unity, as a connectedness beyond connection. There's just this connectedness here. There's a sense of belonging, a sense of there's no separation. There just is this connectedness. What's most like that for you? What's most like these words like connectedness, unity, belonging? What's that like to be connectedness, causelessly connected? And then there's Cami, who was speaking before most of you arrived, and she was speaking of this, like this curiosity, this openness. What's most like kind of an openness, a curiosity, kind of a welcoming that's here for you? But it's not a doing. It's more like this, just as a quality of beingness. It's just curious. It's welcoming. It's open. And as you find that, and you find an aliveness in that. Oh, what's next? What's Cami going to say today? What's Raymond going to say? But just coming from this openness. And lastly, there's my friend Milo, who yes, this is more, I often experience in Milo is more this masculine quality of this clarity. There's just a clarity, like a knowing. It's not the mind or the part understanding. It's like the knowingness as beingness, a clarity as our beingness. What's most like clarity to you? It just is a knowing. Sometimes people call it intuition, but this clarity. And maybe you can even feel like there's a masculine flavor to clarity for some of us. This knowing, this trust. What's most like that for you? As we're being with all of being with, and now just for this last few seconds, you're just aware of where we just traveled, what we just felt. Which of those, or what's most your default right now? And we'll go around in here. What's your default quality or the most pronounced quality of beingness that's here, that's causeless? It just is here for each of us. What do you find? It could be those we explored. It could be just whatever your flavor, whatever your word is. I'd like to invite you to see if you can let yourself sink into that. Let it have you. And as you're sinking in, I'll do my quick housekeeping as we're sinking into our default qualities together. I'm a mediator. I'm not a psychotherapist. And for me, this is friends and colleagues coming together to explore. If everybody's good with that and being responsible for their own journeys, if I could get a thumbs up, please. And secondly, I've got the recording on, which I always do, but only my image is ever shared. However, the audio that you share today could be included, because sometimes I make this available for those who can't come electronically. And as always, if there's ever any concern about that, let me know and I make you a co-host, and you just click pause when you share. And if there's ever an accident, if there's ever at the end, you're like, oh my God, I wish I hadn't said that, just stay on at the end of the meeting and let me know, and I'll just delete that. My preference is the co-host option. If everybody's good, that this might be shared, but only my image would ever be shared. If I get a thumbs up, please. So, oh, Haneen is really good with this. And so what's it like being you? What's the beingness? What's the quality of self that's most pronounced for you right now? Let's just go around and maybe just for starters, go around and just hear just a word or a sentence or two about what's the quality that's loudest for you. And maybe I'll just go around in the order of everybody that's in my showing up on my screen. And can I start with you, Cami?
So what's coming up is open connection.
Beautiful. For all of us, as we hear open connection, what's that like in you? And and then can we also feel it? We also like we're each other's guides here. We're each other's gurus. And as Cami is open connection, can you feel that, the resonance of that, like a tuning fork? Like, whoa, open connection. This is nice. I like this. What's that like to really to feel that, to know open connection? Thank you, Cami. Raymond, what you got?
Yeah, I'm just peaceful. So I'm peaceful just now. Um, like still water. But it doesn't mean there aren't birds and other creatures flying all around me at the moment. But I am peaceful.
Like still water. Can we feel that? Can we find that? Peaceful. It's like still water. And if you're like, if you have any parts that have come up, like, I'm not sure I get that. Oh my God, hang on. We just lost Milo. Unlocked the room. Oh, there he is. The still water. If you have any parts that are like, I'm not sure I'm getting this as much as what Raymond's speaking of, see if you can feel him. Tune into Raymond. Tune into the still water, this piece. What's it like to be this piece? What's it like to be peace, to be the still water? And and then if anybody's having parts that are like, come on, Sid, let's dive into the good stuff. Let's get into the juice of the parts and everything. This aspect of it. This is what so many of the paths focus on. They call it the direct path. It's just going right to beingness, right to the background, right to our nature. And that's what we're playing with as we begin today. And in IFS, we call it self-leadership, this idea of abiding as self. Eli, what you got?
There's a quality of not knowing or like before a label of like you could call it a lot of things, but there's something more primary than that right here, right now.
That's before knowing, maybe even before qualities. How else can you point us there, Eli, and help us find this that you're experiencing?
There's this sense like there's the not knowing, then there's this like urge to label it like, oh, what is it? Like, what do I want to call this? And then there's whatever it's called. Is curious, love. I like. There's a lot of things, and right now I feel like I'm in the first and sense the second. That's like, can we call it? And it's like we don't have to. We don't have to call it something.
Perfect. How do you make sense of that? Because we're all like, we're talking about qualities of self and qualities of beingness. And my friend Jack often takes us to the same place that Eli's pointing, that you'll hear people on YouTube talk about. And then there's this, that how can you give it a word? It's just that's before it arises, before knowing arises, or perhaps what it arises out of. What is that? How does that make sense in your system? And how do you know that that's here, that's what's the flavor of it? Is there a flavor? Or is it more like the Buddhist word equanimity or stillness or emptiness? Thank you. Thank you, Eli. Oh, Sarah, what you got for us?
There's a sense of peace. Yeah, stillness.
You hear Sarah speak of peace and stillness here. Can you feel it? Can you feel that? That resonate? What does that help open you into? The gift of peace and stillness from Sarah. peace and stillness. And for all of us, is that your word for it, or is your word might be different for peace and stillness that we feel here? Thank you, Sarah. Where are you going to take us, Jack? What's your word?
What came up for me when you first asked was, I think someone said this was, or when you mentioned it was curious with a curious with a flavor of curious without any kind of anticipation. Sometimes when I'm curious, I'm expecting something, but this is more like a curiosity with any kind of like expectation or any kind of anticipation, if that makes sense.
How's that for all of us? Curiosity without anticipation, without expectation. Cami used this word openness. Jack has this curiosity without anticipation, without expectation. When you find that in your system, this curiosity, is it more empty for all of us? Is it more an emptiness or more an aliveness? Let's feel this curiosity without anticipation. And can you sense parts that want to run with it, that might want to step into it and take a step into it? And then there's just this curiosity that's here. Thank you, Jack. Haneen.
Think I would also describe it as openness, and yet I feel a sense of like just the joy arising in me, or like just the flow that can go in any direction in a way. Like at the beginning, it felt almost like I wanna scream just out of joy. Like it's like just the energy of the nervous system just being very active and being here, enjoying it. What would I would call it? Well, maybe an openness and joy and maybe curiosity. And I could relate to most of the things that were being said or pointed out. And yeah. Just joy. Like I can't explain it. Really happy to be here.
Oh, wonderful. What's that like? What's that like to receive the gift, the guidance, the direction of Haneen here? Like, can we find this? What's our version of what she's describing? You feel like this vibrancy, this aliveness that's there. Even hey, it's just openness, but in that openness has this flow, this aliveness, this joy. What's that like? What's different as we open to Haneen? What does that touch in you? What flavor of self, of beingness opens for you? Do you get to glimpse and know better? Thank you, Haneen. And I'm so curious. I spent 5 days virtually with Milo. We just came back from this, and I'm curious what flavor of this Milo. Milo and I were exploring all kinds of things. What's here for Milo?
Commerination. I'm gonna blatantly just shamelessly steal your word because it feels so yummy to be here together. And hey, honey, long time no see, so good to see you. And yeah, just really happy to be here as well and feeling the group field as we explore this together. And underneath this, I like where Jack took us with this. There's like a sense of curiosity. And I'm really interested or curious around, that kink, that sort of conscious choice to create experiences that on the surface seem something we might resist. And yet, as I touch them, there's a Ah, hmm. There's something underneath the resistance.
Let me ask you this. This that's underneath the resistance, this that's being touched, if it was a quality of beingness, a quality of self, what is it that's revealed?
How it's showing up here right now is, and I think you called it, there is a knowing. There's like a knowing of sort of pulling the strings behind the veil a little bit. And there's a deeper integration of everything as part of me, as opposed to light and shadow. Everything is light.
Okay. What do you all do with that? There's a knowing behind the veil. This that Milo's pointing to, this knowing behind the veil, this deeper integration of everything as part of me. Everything is, what the hell is he talking about? Everything is part of me. What do you do with that? Everything is part of me. And then the sense of, though, the shadow and light, but then Milo's pointing to something. Wait a minute, if there's not shadow, even the shadow, it's all of light. How does that play for you? How did it do? Anything to add, Milo?
Thank you.
Wow.
That was great.
Wow. Okay, you guys might want to do this with me. I was like, shake. That was a lot, huh? That was a lot with the 8 of us. Woo! Woohoo! And the good news, right, is that there's no place to go. This whole time together, we're just going from here to here, from here to here, from now to now. There's only now, only here. We're just playing, we're just being, we're just celebrating how life is moving through each of us. And we're just playing together. Woo! So before we go any further, let's just open the floor. How was that? What's bubbling from hearing each other? Anything that would like to be shared?
Yeah, I'm getting this sense of like bliss on tap. It's like you're at a bar and they have those big kegs and you can turn the tap and whatever comes out. It's just I'm just it's feeling like, oh yeah, bliss comes out of that. I can just sort of every time I want to sort of put my mouth up there and oh yeah, or put my head up there and just sort of let it flow down. So yeah, that sort of feeling of really, yeah, just bliss on tap is what it feels like. Sort of.
So,
That's where you
so
guys are
what's this
taking me, so.
beautiful? What's that like, Jack? Just so that we all can this
I just
bliss. It's
described
like
it. Like imagine you're,
got it. But what's it
you
what's it like? What's it like here now? What's it like in your body? What's it like to be? What's it like to be bliss? Just for all of us. What's it like to be bliss? And maybe Jack can help us find it. What's it like to be this bliss? It's on tap. It's here. Bliss. Is it
yeah.
like electric? Is it
It's
more
more
stillness? What's it?
it's more of a serotonin kind of bliss, I think. Right. It's more of a even sort of effortless. After all, you don't even have to turn the tap knob anymore.
Because
I don't know
they
how to describe it. It's hard it'd be easier to try to take you there than to describe it. You know what I mean?
oh, perfect. Because that when you hear Jack speak of that bliss on tap, it's just here. It's just always accessible. Does what arises in you is like, yes, I can relate to that, or like, oh, what the hell is he talking about? Or maybe you've had glimpses of that. Bliss on tap, bliss always here. How do we make sense of that? And then how do we, when you hear these non-dual teachers, they often use this word Satchit Ananda as describing our essence, and that Ananda translates for some as bliss. And they describe this as well. That's the essence of what we are. It's like, how do you make sense of that and for each of us? All right. What else? Anything else bubbling from what we've done in the first 25 minutes together as we've explored? Raymond.
Yeah, I'm interested. So when I read about the avatars or the sages or those that have enlightened before us, they talk about that they still see everything like we do, but they're not identified with the body. And they can see the body and all of the experiences of the ego. And so that's one element of, and sometimes I fade away into just seeing, so I actually see all of this, like there's no separation between any of the objects in the room or anything like that. But I want to make this real and human as well, Sid, right? Because
Yeah.
I am both. I am both divine and I'm human. So I wonder what other people's experience is currently. I don't mean right now in this meeting, but kind of globally. I'm personally, if I can say it like that, in my localized version, I'm experiencing a lot of what I'll call dark energy or difficult energy. And just to put it into perspective, you know, I've done.
Wait.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Raymond, because maybe you can transition for us. Because this was all the warm up. What we just did, that was all the warm up. Because the humanness of this is what Raymond's saying. I mean, that's where it's at. We don't want to miss a moment of that, and we don't want to be, no, I just want the peace, the bliss, the love. Like Raymond, where he's starting to take us is like there's dark energy here, there's darkness, and that's what I hope to explore some today with what I was calling homeopathic IFS, which was deeply including all of that. But let me do a little introduction, Raymond, then we'll go back to you with this. But you know, homeopathic medicine is the idea of just getting like a little taste, a little diluted taste of whatever the energy is, and so that we can let that pervade our system, and so that we no longer react, we no longer say no to it. It's like, oh wow, I can open to that. And what I wanted to explore some is, how do we stay in the yes? How do we stay in the yes in life? How do we stay in, or the flow, or the connectedness? And then what we find often is, why does the no come up? Why does resistance come up? The Buddhists say that the only cause of suffering is resistance. What is the resistance? What are we resisting? If we can, kind of what we've been playing with this group a lot is welcoming it all, welcoming all of our parts, including letting everything be in the hot tub. And what I was curious to explore was even going more somatic with that, going somatically, even more intimately with what's arising, with the part that arises, with the darkness, with the stress, with the fear, with an anxiety, but not dive into that. Instead, just get a little taste of it and see what it's like. Almost if we're letting that be the air and letting our parts breathe it. It's like, wait a minute, it's not so scary. We can be with that. And this might be a little much, where my thought was we'd start with something like anxiety, and Raymond's taking us into, well, there's some real darkness in my life. But maybe let's see what you've got, and we'll see where we go as a group with all of this.
Yeah, it's really a question of inquiry myself, because so I really do a lot of the time see this like a movie. I do. I don't really plan that much anymore, and especially things where I might be talking like this to groups of people or doing mindfulness or things like that. All of that's just happening. Just things are just appearing. I'm not planning anything, and things are just happening on their own. But at the same time, this energy seems to be at times increasing. And what I will say is, I am conscious when it might be related to something from my conditioned past. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about my own personal energy. It feels like, I tell you what it feels like. and again, coming from a sort of religious background as well, which I'm not subscribed to in some ways, but it might just be some of that. So I feel like there's a battle going on. I feel like I'm being attacked by dark energy. And then you could say, well, who's being attacked? I get all that. I don't mean like personally. I just feel that the more surrender, and all that's grace. I'm not claiming any of this, but all of that's grace. So the more surrender that seems to come, the more personal, translucent I become, and the more light that shines, it seems to have a counter effect where I just seem to experience, at times, not all the time, this dark energy. And it has all the, what we would call the qualities of fear and shame and guilt and all the feelings that we would normally be frightened of or uncomfortable to sit with. And I'm sitting with all of that at one level in a state, as Jack described it, as bliss on tap, very peaceful. But that's what I mean about this atmosphere. There are other things that I can see. I don't feel them personally attacking me, but it's almost like, I would just like what other people's experience of that is. And what might that be for you? And maybe I'll gain some insight about that.
Well, let me ask everyone, as we hear Raymond speaking of this, because we're all resting in a pretty deep place right now, where what we just did with our intro. So as we're resting in this place of, be it peace, joy, clarity, openness, stillness, love, and Raymond shares from here, there's this sense of what he's calling a dark energy, the fear, the shame, the guilt. From here, is there awareness in all of us of something, of flavors of fear, shame, and guilt? I don't know if I'm going to go with the word dark energy for it, because we don't really do that in IFS, but it's like this, that might be fear, guilt, shame. And just notice, is it okay that that's here from this spaciousness of being, from this place that we're in right now? And don't get too close to it. Just see if you can be aware of that. And then before we go, and because my thought is that we would just make this all very real today with what parts are here and what contractions arise in us. And then we, just like we did with self, we would guide each other into knowing and being intimate with these qualities of these burdens in our systems. Before we go there, just for Raymond, that kind of opened this up and was wondering what comes up for anybody with what Raymond was sharing as he's gone deeper into this. There's a sense of a translucence, more light, but also the sense of a more pervasiveness of fear, guilt, and shame. Yeah.
Can I ask you to clarify, Raymond? Because I heard was that as you sit with this quote unquote darkness, which you kind of incorporate into your practice, there's an okayness with it. There's an okayness of being with it and accepted and welcome, and there's even bliss. So I'm wondering if there is a problem, and if so, what is it?
Yeah, so the problem, there isn't really a problem per se. I'm just wondering if this just comes with the territory of being empathic. So what I'm really trying to say is it doesn't feel like it's all my own personal energy that's coming around. It seems to be a collective conscious energy, not a personal conscious energy. And you could say that what I'm suggesting is that as the light increases, so the darkness increases as well. And whatever we mean by that, I know I'm just using words here, and that's why I use the word energy as well, Sid, and I'm not even referring to entities or spirits or anything like that. I'm just talking about just that sense of that if there was a wave of that energy coming before and I was open to it, it seems like that wave's getting higher. And at the same time, this light is getting brighter.
I'm
That's
with you.
what I'm saying. That makes
Thanks.
sense.
That does make sense. Yeah.
What do you see with that, Milo? Where do you go with that?
Yeah, without sort of, thinking about it very much, that there is like an intuitive yes. Something wants to say yes. It's like an opening up, right? And it doesn't go one side. It opens up to both. And the more that of the oneness of the everything that comes in, the more light and the more darkness, right? So it's like the lens just keeps widening and widening. The aperture keeps growing bigger and bigger, and there's just more of everything that comes in. That's how it's translating over here. Yeah.
Thank you, Milo. Let's see, anything else bubbling for others on this question, and then we'll dive into more everybody's personal happenings. Anything else? Yeah, Jack.
Yeah, I've been looking at this, looking at evil, dark energy, and looking at its nature, and looking at its nature, what arises is when I see its nature, it sort of cuts off its identity as only dark energy, which is why I keep hearing light, right? And also that evil or dark energy excludes dark energy, if you will. In other words, or excludes non-dark energy, excludes non-dark energy. So the trying to get polarized around it is sort of is not what's is not what's happening. It's more of a realizing that dark energy has this light around it, and that you know it that it doesn't exclude that dark energy or evil doesn't exclude the opposite of evil, if you will. So those two going together has been sort of a really sort of powerful way for me to look at it. And it gets to Nagarjuna's teachings a little bit. I mean, if you're not familiar with Nagarjuna's teachings, you might not get that. But yeah, that's sort of what's really strongly coming up for me as a way to look at it. Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. It just for this, as we're using these words kind of as they rarely come up for dark and evil, I'm going to invite quotation marks around those. Just as we're using those words. And just, is it possible as we have those words, if we can see even in that, this light that Jack speaks of and that Raymond speaks of, even in that. And then lastly, I'd like to add something. This is just from my time with, and I might have tears that come when I say this, with this woman, Byron Katie, who I spent time with. And her experience of what Raymond's describing is, she would say, I don't know if it's like Raymond's, but she would describe that as it's kind of cleared what's here, what's left for me is what's left in you. This as it continues to open, it's just something that's there in Sarah. That's what's left for me in this connectedness that we are. Anything else need to be said on this one before we kind of dive in further into the personal? Or a final word, Raymond?
Just that's helpful, Sid. And I suppose I'm just taking a sense check on where people are at, because for me, this is an unusual group of people in a good way. this is not a meeting at my workplace. Do you know what I mean? So I can't really talk like this anywhere else, or people think I'm nuts, or more nuts than they think I already am. I don't really mind that, but yeah. So this is good. I like what both Jack and Milo were sharing, and I think it is
Great.
just the opening up to, and it's. I think my system, if you call it that, if I can even call it that, there seems to be a self-calibrating going on. There's almost like it's like I've put more fruit in the juicer and it's not quite mixed up yet. So
Yeah.
I'm getting at the moment.
Thank you.
Process.
Just one more. This is just the gift of Raymond on this thing, right? Raymond's been doing this for a very, very long time, and you probably can feel the love, the connectedness, the beingness that's there. And then for Raymond, even with all of that, he has this experience of this shame, fear, and guilt that he can touch that's here. Maybe it's personal, maybe it's collective, but it's here. Because for some of us, we start opening, oh my God, finally here, there's bliss, there's connectedness. And then a contraction comes up, then shame comes up, and we're like, oh my God, I've lost it. But perhaps from what Raymond shared, we can see that that's just how it continues to open, and including all of our humanity. Ours right here, and ours is the collective. So as we continue together, just to bring this back into our lives, into our bodies, and what's happening here in time. Like, what's it like to be you right now? For all 8 of us, what's it like to be you? How are you? How are you right now? Notice what comes. And what's loudest? Is it a part? Do you hear a part loudest, or is the background beingness, a quality of self? What's loudest? How are you? How are you? And can you be aware of the background, the beingness, this peace, this love, this connectedness, this joy, whatever flavor, the stillness. And then what flavors of parts? What parts are here? It's like, whoa, that was a lot to follow where Raymond and Jack was going. I'm not sure I really followed all of that. It might be an understanding part. It might be another part. It's like, wait, I have something I want to talk about. Come on. We're not going to I have something I want to share. And Milo, who speaks of this idea of like going deeper and feeling these things and feeling what they're made of. And wow, Sid said something. It's just, what's here? What are your parts that are here? What's your background that's here? And what's it like to have all of that here? Haneen, what you got? Was that you raising your hand?
No, I didn't. But I actually had a question for Raymond. Raymond, when that arises, does it feel like something is like, how does it feel in your body? Is it like a tightening, going back into like a human form and like being caught in this? What is it like for you in a like it brings you back into a human form, because you said earlier like it's the personal way of looking at things, or like the identity dissolves a little bit more, but with that the dark energy arises stronger. I would be very curious to know what it's like on a somatic experience.
So I mean, I call these things licking the battery. Right? You know, when you get a battery, you want to check it's got power in it, and you put it on your tongue, you go, yes, it does have, that type of thing. So it's still shocking. It's still got an electrical charge to it, if I can say it like that. I do feel it as, and that was actually, when you said that, it's almost like, yes, it kind of sucks you back into the body. It's like, it's like, and it does, and then there's a little battle goes on there, but there's a little light now that never goes out. So no matter what energy I experience, I always have that still small voice in the background that's able to say, it's able to say, I love you, Raymond. And it's really okay that this is happening. I have a reassuring voice always in the background. So I never feel abandoned to any particular energy, but I do feel experiencing it in my body as you're describing it. And it does seem to, thicken up my human experience rather than it was thin. Then this comes and it kind of thickens me up, and then I'll go thin again.
I'd like to ask everybody, just with what Raymond was sharing. He said that there's always this still small voice. There's always this still small voice. What's that for you? This is a big deal in IFS. We call it a tipping point, when the system realizes that self is always here. It's a really big deal. What's that for you, the still small voice? Is it like these words that we were using at the beginning, like Kami's openness, Raymond's peacefulness, Eli's not knowing, Milo's curiosity, Aneen's joy, Sarah's peace? What is that still small voice for you? And then Raymond spoke of, it's like an electrical charge. It's like an electrical charge that comes. When you heard that, just to play a little with this homeopathic game, when you heard the electrical charge, you get just a little bit of a taste of that, electric charge, and let that be felt in your system, an electric charge. Notice just a little bit, so there's not a resistance to it. And see if it might even, is it okay that there's a little electric charge here? And might it even be, this is crazy, might it even be enjoyed a little bit, this electric charge? Woo! Electric charge. Milo likes that. Electric charge. Before we go any further with that, with both the still small voice and electric charge, anything bubbling that would like to be shared? And then I'd like to go to another experience of electric charge. Anything else? So who wants to go next? Who's got something? Who's got a part that's here? Who's got a difficulty that you can share with us that we all can really join you in and find our little homeopathic dose of joining you in that? Who's got something for us? Eli, wonderful.
Yeah, I'm happy to go for it. I got to go to a work meeting in 10, so I figured I'd share something. The part that's most present is sort of like the general manager of all activities here. That feels like it knows self, it knows, or it's becoming aware that we don't have to manage everything. And it's like a craving retirement. It wants to stop being the general manager of parts and life, and hey, it's like, hey, we kind of know that there's another mode of being and that self can take care of things, and there's a flow way to live, and we're oscillating, and it's like, okay, when can I just fully, leave the store for good?
For all of us, as we hear Eli speak about this part, this manager just really wants to retire. Really wants to retire. Like, it knows that there's maybe this flow, this other option, and it just wants to retire. First came as we feel that in Eli, as we feel this very subtle longing for retirement. Either to feel how it's showing up, a little taste of how it's showing up in Eli, or finding it in our own system, but then just doing that homeopathic dose, that little flavor of it, this longing to retire, wanting relief, a break, ease. If you can find that, and can that be felt? Can that be the air in your system? But just a little bit. So it's though parts are curious about it, so there's not resistance to it. I want to retire, longing to retire. And what's it like to let that in? Is it a problem that this longing to retire, this longing for ease, relief is here? Is it a problem, or is it interesting? Wow, what's that flavor like? What's it like to really feel that little homeopathic dose, that little drop of longing to retire? What do you find, Eli? What's it like to feel that?
There's a lot of like self to part of like, oh, it is interesting, like curiosity, compassion, like it is interesting and it is okay, and there's nothing to do. It just like leaves me in that blank space of interesting.
Interesting. And then when that's when that longing to retire is felt, when the little, just a drop of it is felt, notice if it can be felt, is it okay to feel that? Is it okay to feel a taste of that longing? What do you find when you play with it that way, Eli?
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Mm-hmm. So if you find this manager that's just like, okay, this general manager, I want to retire. Notice like the vibration of that, the feel of that energy, the feel of that wants to retire, and see if you could just get like a little drop of that, like wanting to retire, a little drop of it, a little taste of it, a little feel of it, just a little bit, and feel that. Like, what's that like?
Well, I guess the longing, putting it in terms that we've used in the past, is like the longing feels probably most like freedom, and then there's an element, like how you usually phrase it, is there freedom here? And it's like, oh, it's like a dose of, oh, there's freedom here.
Nice. So have you could track where Eli went with it? Like when he was feeling this manager that was yearning for retirement, where his system went was hearing, well, what it's really longing for is freedom. And then he tracked that. And then he noticed, wow, there's freedom here. And he felt that freedom. Beautiful. Just if everybody could follow that. It's such a nice move. Thank you, Eli. And we're going to lose you in 5 minutes. Anything else you'd like to share, Eli? Hey, Sid and friends, thanks from Raymond. Raymond, give us a final word.
I love you.
Eli, anything else you'd like to share with us?
I think that like concept of like a dose makes sense. It feels still on like shaky ground. It's like, we can touch freedom, but it's not the whole like, we're like feeling it out. Like, is there, we actually, can we hold this? Like, like that kind of thing.
Thank you. Me too. We're just exploring this together, feeling out together. What's it like? And can we just have a little taste of these, a dose of these? And can we, as we explore? Yes. Any final thoughts, Eli, before we kind of see what's bubbling in one of our friends? Good. Oh, thank you. Who's got something else? What's here for you? Who's got a part? Who's got something bubbling? What's it take us someplace? Milo!
Yeah, I'm sort of bursting with excitement to share actually. For a while now, as you took us on this ride, and I really feel myself touching a tipping point. I'm just riding that edge as we speak, and it's so rich. because what comes up for me is, especially as, Raymond took us to that deep darkness, would really, really help to kind of go to something that is really sort of scary, straight out scary. And I see like, it's like the ghost, how children kind of dress up as ghosts with a white sheet, but then imagine that it's dark and it's kind of scary. But it's like the light came on and the light shines through all the kind of openings in that sheet and through the blackness of the sheet. So it's almost like it is seen to be light also, and everything is light. And then suddenly there's no, I feel like I kind of fell into that radical acceptance because at that point where, it feels like there's a crusade to turn all the shadow, all the burdens into lights. So you're kind of chasing all these little ghosts, trying to convert them, trying to alchemize them, trying to heal them. And now it's just instantaneously seen that they're beaming with light. So there's nothing to fix. They are actually, by their own accord, choosing to run away and play being ghosts. It's like a dress up party. And that immediately kind of there's like nothing that needs, saving or changing, and there's like an instant relaxation. And even as those, sensations appear, they still appear very much the same way. So I can track some like anxiety in my system, ooh, like some fear, some tension, but it's like there's an enjoyment of it suddenly because it doesn't need to change. So it's almost like, somebody else mentioned a movie. I think maybe that was Raymond as well, that he sees everything as a movie. And this metaphor comes to mind. It's just like watching a horror movie. I'm really scared, but I'm also totally safe sitting on the couch. So there's that kink in enjoying the fear. I'm totally safe and yet I'm afraid. And it's like, whew, what a ride.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm speechless.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost difficult to put into words, but it's like, yeah, I hope you can feel what I'm sort of pointing to, that there is this other example that comes to my mind that feels very similar is, I think our friend Rupert uses this example of the snake being seen to be, the light comes on and the snake in the corner of a room turns out to just be a belt or a rope. And suddenly, like, all of that tension is just like there's like, oh my God, it's a rope. Like I'm not gonna go fighting ropes. It's a rope. And the rope can be here, and the rope can change into light or it can stay being a rope. It's, yeah, whatever. Uh, uh.
Let me pause for just a minute when it gets there. This just what's it like to beautiful from Eli. Thank you, Eli. What, what how deeply were you able to follow Milo? What was that like following him? Look, the little ghost running around. Oh, Sarah's got something. I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm coming. Just for all of us. What was that like to follow him, the little ghost? And then Milo describes there's this tipping point his system's at. Can you appreciate what he's describing in that tipping point? When he starts to see that, wow, these ghosts, they're really light. The light is shining through. And the ghosts, they're choosing to play. It's just what you said, a dress up party. Can you see the lightness in that? Okay, Sarah, I'm not gonna. You go, Sarah. What you got?
Oh, I'm actually heading out, and I just wanted to say thank you. And yeah, I really love the feeling of retirement. Yeah, that was really resonating with that part of me that was feeling stillness and peace. It's like that part. Um, maybe it's already retired. Maybe it's not longing for retirement, but it's actually retired. That's why it's peaceful, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much.
What's it like? And maybe it's already retired. Maybe it's already retired. Give us just final word. What's the flavor of that?
Just peace. It's just, yeah, peace.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you, Sid. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Back to Milo's edge, because it's writing the edge. Like this transparency. Sometimes in IFS, it's like the parts start becoming more transparent, more translucent. As he's describing the ghost, and we see the light shining through the parts. There's this sense of beingness shining through. What's it like as we follow Milo with this? And he even went to the place of saying, wait a minute, nothing needs to change. Nothing needs to change. How does that translate into your system? The idea of watching a horror movie and being safe at the same time. Like having our parts fully at play, being fully immersed in this life. And then there's just, I forget what Milo's word, Raymond's word, that tiny little voice, that knowing that's always here, this like causeless okayness in the midst of this all. And then Milo was getting this perspective. Wow, there's been like a crusade to change these parts, these little ghosts, to fix them, to help them, to bring the shadow into light. And then he's speaking of, we've been chasing these little ghosts to change them. And then he's seeing that they are the light. What's your version of this tipping point, of this edge that Milo's describing? Milo, I was just throwing out how it was touching me with all this. Anything else?
No, that was a wonderful summary. Like, thank you for reflecting that back, because I could just sink even deeper into it, and that's it. The only kind of other thing that came up as you were bringing back that metaphor of a movie, we can stretch that metaphor just one step further. I found that it's also the horror, the drama that unfolds on the screen as we watch it. There is somewhere that's even if we're really caught and sort of on the edge of our seat, but there is that simultaneous knowing always that like these are actors. They are having a blast. They're enjoying this right now. They're enjoying they might be getting, be going through seeming pain in the movie, but like the actor is in their essence. They're acting. They're doing what they love. And there's almost like something that pervades this experience right now. And Sid, I might have to, eat these words up next week we meet. I might be a total, wreck in total fear and darkness. But this is what's opening now anyway. And right now it's just like, oh my God, it's all this light, like literally everything is.
So what about, thank you, Milo. What's about that for us? The actors, these actors, they're enjoying, they're having a blast. They're enjoying this. They're doing what they love. Because that's kind of under the edges we're exploring with this. It's like, well, can we even find enjoyment with this? Can we see it as light? Can we, how wide can our yes be? When does our no arise? And can we love our no? Can we love the container? It's like, well, this is what my capacity is right now for yes. And then there's a no. I can't, that ghost is too scary. I can't see the light coming through that one. Whoa, got to stay away from that one. What's anything bubbling up in response to Milo? And then let's go to who's next. Who's got something for us? Yeah. Honey.
I loved your example, Milo, with the ghost costume, and was also thinking about how everyone has like a different Halloween costume, or like just a costume that might appear as one is scarier than the other, so therefore you react accordingly to it. while taking all these costumes out away, you just see pretty much the same essence. And that's pretty much what it is that you're able to, yeah, I can totally resonate with that, that you can shine into the room fully or into everything fully and recognize the appearances of them just hit differently based on, I think, on different levels, like a pre-downloaded understanding, our own understanding, or like the understanding of the self that you have about who you believe you are, and therefore they appear differently, which is, yeah, beautiful. And
Mm,
yeah, thank you for bringing that up, and lovely to see you, Milo.
nice. Oh, who's got something else for us? Who's got a real life? Who's got a difficulty, an edge, a part? Hey, I'm doing great. I love what Milo said, but I got this part that's just like, yeah, but I got work and I got this thing with family and I got this. Anything coming up that you'd like to share with us?
So what's coming up for me is I said openness was my word, right? And then when I said openness and people started talking, what I noticed is I have a very big resistant part that when Raymond talked about divine and human, I realize when my resistant part comes in, it's trying to protect the feeling of divine that part has identified is what divine is instead of embracing it all. But what my resistant part is hearing, which is so nice to hear, is that embracing it all really isn't scary. It really would create more openness and more connection, which was my words to begin with.
Let's see if we can love that part, Cam, because I think we all that's it's such a great part that you're focusing on. And I know that one inside me very well. That is, yes, this is what divine is, this is what light is, and that other stuff, we want to stay here, right?
Yeah.
This is nice. Oh, this is where I feel open here. I feel love here and
Yes.
connectedness. I don't want that other stuff.
Right.
And let's see, what's it? So that part, that what do you call it? Big resistant part.
Yeah.
Where do you notice? Where do you hear it? Where do you hear it? What's it like? Do you hear it in front of you? Is it in your chest, or is it more of just a feeling? Is it in your head? Where do you find it?
It's more of a tightening in my body, and it's mostly this upper torso part. It's
Great.
it's it's restraining is a really good word for it. It feels restraining.
Nice.
But as we've talked, there's a shift because it actually feels less restraining and the openness feels more.
Well,
It's so hard to describe. It feels less restraining and more welcoming. Like it's less
yeah,
scary. Yeah.
yeah, nice. Just to notice that the relation between the part, and sometimes we play with it as foreground and background. We're just kind of making that up, but with self, this beingness, and how it changes the experience of the part in being immersed with people like Haneen and Milo and Jack and others for this hour together, right? And but then we don't want to bypass it, or we don't want to override it. We want to like really celebrate this big resistant part. And my first question for all of us, can we all see how our version of the big resistant part is serving us, how it's serving Kami, the big resistant part that says, yes, this, no, that, like how it's serving, right? How it's doing its best for us. And then let's go to, like Kami described, as a tightening in her upper torso, a sense of restraining.
Yeah.
I'd like to invite us all to see if we can find like a taste of that, a small dose of it, a flavor of that, of restraining, tightening upper torso experience that Cami's describing. So either feeling it in her, what she's describing, or finding our own version of the sense of this big resistant part that wants the divine. It has this sense of good is over here, and I don't want that other stuff. And see if we can feel a little dose of it. If we can find a little dose of it, and maybe if we could let it like pervade the air a little bit, just a small dose, the vibration of that, so that our system can feel it, our parts can feel it. Oh, this is what restraining, resistance, tightening is like. Just a little bit, and find out, is it interesting? And if any parts are overwhelmed, like turn it down, dilute it, make it further away. See if you can find it. It's like, wow, that's interesting. Tightening. Like, can you feel a little bit of that tightening, a little bit of that resistance? And is it, can you, like, this is what Milo was saying, like the actors, they're enjoying playing the roles. Can you find even an enjoyment of that? Wow, this tightening, this resistance. Oh, wow. It's nice to feel that. Something in the chest is a little different with that. Wow. Just so that it's light enough so you don't have any parts that are resisting it. Just really light. Like, what's that like? What do you find, Cami?
Yeah. Yeah, there is an embracing. That's the word that's coming to my mind, an embracing of the resistance, the embracing of the feeling of the tightness. I like that.
Nice.
Instead of also pushing that away.
Yes, exactly. That's why just a little bit. We don't want to, just a little taste of it, little taste of that for the embracing.
Yeah.
And just for all of us, just the difference between this is for me a really big deal. The difference between the yes and the no. Like as Cammie's describing it, it's a real yes to this flavor of the big resistant part because we're just getting a little flavor of it. Big yes to it. Milo, what you got, Milo?
Yeah, this is I love this. This is so yummy. And I want to kind of ask Kami as we're exploring this together, because as I heard the embrace, and I'm sort of noticing this as you know, just right now, this is sort of I'm realizing that in that embracing, which I've tried so many times with so many different parts to do, right? Is the whole kissing the frog, you know, as Rupert says. And that never quite feels all the way there because there is that sense of like, I mean, it's a freaking frog. Like, okay, I mean, sure, I'll kiss it, but like, I mean, I would prefer not to, right? And here, rather than embracing, it's like suddenly you realize that you don't have to kiss the frog. The frog actually, you turn the lights off and the frog is no longer a frog. It is the most handsome prince ever, and nobody has to ask you to kiss him. You're all over that prince because it's like it's ecstatic. Why would you not? It's like a Calvin Klein underwear model appears, and you're like, you don't have to tell me to kiss him. Like I don't need further instructions. So like. Can we find that is my question. That seems really interesting to me right now.
I think it goes back to your analogy about the ghosts. Once you take the
Mhm.
sheet off, it's no longer scary. It's no longer the frog. Right.
Mm.
That's the tipping point, I feel like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I'm finding the same, that it's like there's no longer a trying to embrace. There's just
Right.
if it's a soft, beautiful bunny, I don't have to try to embrace it. It's just like
Right. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Milo and Cami. And I'm wondering, we've got like 14 minutes left, and with Haneen and Jack, I'm wondering if there's something you'd like to share in your system or how we could most richly enjoy you. Let's hear.
I'm just enjoying this very much right now. Just really listening, absorbing, feeling, tapping into it, and just absolutely beautiful. When you just spoke about a frog, I've been having a frog in my kitchen. This is such a random story. But there was a frog in my kitchen maybe 2 months ago. I took the frog after like a few days, transported him out, like put him outside. After a few days, the frog was back in the kitchen at the same spot. I found it very weird because my kitchen is a little bit far away. I put him outside in the garden. After a week or so, I decided to put the frog out again, and I thought the frog can't come in anywhere. The window was closed and the door's closed. After a week, I heard a noise. And the frog was back. And I was like, did he teleport himself back there or what happened? Since I've been like exploring more energies and also just like the different densities, I do feel like, and this might sound very strange, and that anything is possible and whatever rises here and like in this realm that we are in, that it appears to be so different than it is. It's almost like now there's this curiosity towards everything that doesn't look at everything the same way or questions how it's being looked at always in the same way. And really, it's almost like a scanning of everything, of like the different densities and what it is, and mainly through the senses, actually, like really entering it mainly through the senses, and a lot has been just revealing itself, especially appearances that always have appeared in the same way, or like hardened reality that start to change. And yeah,
What did that line, and with this line I just wrote down that you said, that appears to be so different than it is. Appears to be so different than it is. Like Milo describing, the ghosts are just playing. They're playing dress up. Maybe form, appearing so different than it is. Maybe the both and the appearance, the density, the energy, the different densities, the appearance, and then what is, and all of that, including it all, the frog that keeps showing up in my mouth. That's how it happens. And it's just the play of it all. It's for all of us. Where do you go with what Haneen's sharing? How can that be so intimately personal for you? What she's sharing, be like, wow, she's talking about my experience, the appearance, appearing different than what it is. How does that play for you? Anything else? Anything else to bring this together for us, Haneen?
I like so that the appearance of the body itself starts to shift or show different realms, realities, and yet being a darkness and light in everything, that is just a world of appearances, of form, of holograms.
And
I
then
find this
what's
is just like more and more dissolving into the room where there is no, on one realm, no edges, on another realm, edges, on an understanding, just different.
yes. Oh, I'm wanting to check. I'm wanting to check because there's a fragility to this human system as we open up to all of this, right? I'm wanting to check. This is why I love IFS, because we have our parts, we have our precious parts, our precious humanness, because we can hear the breath that Haneen is opening to and that she's seeing. It's like I'm wanting to check and see if your parts are okay. If your parts are okay, Haneen, can we all relate to this? We get parts that get scared. Often when in this spiritual journey, we fall into emptiness and we have parts that freak out. No, I don't like this at all. Or we start seeing this light. Milo's describing this light that's shining through, or what Kami's describing with the relation of this resistant part to beingness. Parts start getting scared. It gets scared. I'm just, for all of us, can we do we have parts that get maybe a little freaked out about this or a little nervous? Yeah, Milo.
So this kind of prompted looking at parts and no longer being able to find parts because it's just it's all the little ghosts, showing up as a part that's scared, sad, stressed, happy, joyful, whatever. But it's like light beaming through. It's like now it's just like a light show, right? So there's suddenly, yeah, I suppose that collapse of like there's not self loving and then these parts that need love. It's like self masquerading itself and playing, right? Just like, oh, I'm scared. Ooh. It's like, okay, you be scared then. I mean, you are self itself. So like if that's not comfortable for you, stop being scared. And as long as you enjoy being scared, then like go for it. Hoorah. It's literally just like, it was shocking almost because I'm like, okay, parts. And I mean, I have a lot of parts. And now it's like, but where, okay, part self. And it's like, it's just like that one light. Yeah.
And so with that light of self that right now is it's turned up so high that it's like, whoa, like it's all this light, it's all this beingness. Can we also find that light, as it becomes more fun, that it can be like that the self, the background light, and also be like intentionally like relatively dim so that the form comes back up more, the parts come back up, we can see the form, we can see each other's Jack, Haneen, Cammy, Sid, Milo, and just for the fun of it, but also for the care of all these the precious aspects of us, just that everything just fully gets to be included in this. What do you find with that, Milo? Then we haven't heard from Jack. I'm curious. Haven't heard from him in a while to see what's happening with him with this. But what's it like? The idea the that this can absolutely we're the gift of
Yeah.
following Milo with what he's describing, and then just the both and here.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm following Milo, following Sid, because that, yeah, and I think I remember you bringing us or sort of highlighting that falling into that emptiness more and kind of bringing that back in, and I find that that's not quite it. It's not quite just like dissolving into light. The parts are there, but they are of the same. So like everything is the same light appearing as all the different parts. It's not quite that the parts are not there. That's not what I meant. It's just that they're not seen as separate. They're just they are, they're just playing. It's like the same light that I would turn to, like, okay, let's, dial up the light so that the light can shine on the parts. Suddenly it's like there is nothing, there's no dialing up or down, everything is just like this light, right? Like that there is no, there's really no, I can't find a distinction right now. And this might very well close and suddenly there are parts and self again. But right now that there is not one or the other. There's just the one.
What's that
Hmm.
like for us? How do we make sense of what Milo's pointing to? Jack, where do you go with all this? Where do you go with Jack with Milo's where Milo's going today?
I guess I um sometimes you start talking about you use the word empty or emptiness, and I feel like um you mean something completely different than the way I think about it. For me, it's always the emptiness of something, right? And one of the functions that that performs is because I see the whatever it is, the part, the light, as not inherently being anything. As soon as I try to crystallize it or name it, it's just really nice that that can remind me that whatever's happening there, it's just taking a perspective,
Mm,
and there's infinite perspectives. And because whatever this thing I'm pointing to or trying to crystallize or name isn't inherently anything. Um, it could be all those things to me or to someone else. In other words, it's in its fullness combined with this lack of inherent existence or emptiness that I sort of realize I'm always interpreting, I'm always taking a perspective, and to think that that particular perspective is the only right one, or it's the only one that could be, well, it makes it a lot more playful when I see that just is not what's happening, or that can't be what's happening. So it it it, it makes it in some ways it makes it more mysterious in a way. In some ways, it allows me to be more curious into other perspectives I could take on it, or um, it's pretty. It's not a lack. Well, it is actually. It's a lack of inherent existence, but that gives it its fullness, if you will. In other words,
Wow.
it doesn't. It
Wow.
doesn't. It doesn't make it anything other than not inherently whatever I may be imputing on it.
Yes.
So that's what's coming up for me in a lot of the themes that people are bringing up. So
Beautiful.
is it a
Thank
is
you.
it a frog? I don't know. I can see it as a frog. Is that useful? Okay,
Thank
maybe it's not useful. So that's kind of what's coming up for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. We've just got like 2 minutes left, but thank you. Wow. Again, I'm wanting to check because Jack just has these echoing Milo and then taking a little twist on where Milo was taking us with what Haneen was opening up. Just for all of us, just how are your parts? Or is there anything that's having any bit of like, oh, there's a little nervousness. I don't know if I want to go there. Just notice if there's any discomfort, any skepticism, any concern. And if so, if you could just find where that part is, where that voice is, where that feeling is in your system that might have some concern. It might even be like when Milo said, hey, tomorrow this might be gone. It's like any concerned parts, just notice those. And can they just be fully included, welcomed, loved, honored, appreciated, just like we were doing with these little like feeling Eli's part and feeling Tammy's. Like, can they just be welcomed here? Can everything be welcomed? And maybe even a spiritual achiever that's like, whoa, what Milo was talking about. Yeah, I like that. As like an achiever that might want something different than what is in our system. You can feel that, right? If the spiritual achiever comes up and says something is better, or like Cammy's resistant part, it's just another form that says this but not that. If we have any this but not that's inside, what kind of preferences can they just be loved and welcomed just the way they are? Is there anything that needs to change in your system? Is there anything that would be better than what is? Just notice the voice that comes up that says that. I'm just wanting us to have a very gentle landing because we've really gone someplace today. Just a gentle landing for all of our parts and for our systems. Yeah, and then just here we are. Maybe there's a part also, an understanding part, or like, whoa, that was good. I want to hold on to that. Anything that wants to hold on to something, just notice that part too, because then here we are. Anything that wants to hold on to, like, whoa, that was there was a little tipping point that happened today. I want to hold on to that. And then here we are, back to here and now. We didn't go anywhere. Here we are. And just if this last thing, if there is a reaction, a pushback, and it's awkward, just send me an email or a message on Facebook. You're just none of us are alone in this. This was a lot where we went today. None of us are alone. And Milo, if you have a couple minutes, I wanted to follow up with you. If you could hold on with me for a minute. And last thing is just thank all of us just to notice how this was co-created today. This was entirely co-created, the space and where we went and the gifts of each of us, where we took where we invited each other and where we went. It was from each of us. So just to appreciate your system and how you led us today and how you were the guru for us today. Just thank you. Thank you, everybody. It was such a pleasure being with you. Come back again soon.
You took us on. I just felt like it was like people were popping, like we're all like awakening now together,
What's it like to be where you are, Milo? Like I really want. I was thinking. I was like, okay, Milo needs to have this whole video. He needs to, like, we need to just cut him out so he can put this on YouTube. And it's like Milo speaking, Milo's version.
Yeah, I feel really
What's it like?
inspired to make a video about this. Yeah. Yeah, just like I mean ecstatic, not this like cosmic orgasm kind of way, that we seen like Devani go through shaking and whatever else. But it's yeah, I was really kind of struggling to contain myself because it just felt like this massive expansion happening as we speak, just engulfing everything in light. And even as you're talking about the parts and about the backlash or clinging or resisting, I was able to track all that. And there was like a total okayness with it because it was also, it was also light, right? It was that too was light. The clinging was like, oh, whew, wow, it's so like juicy to be clinging onto this. And like, fuck it, I know this is gonna close tomorrow. And how cool is that that I get to play this like now it's here and now it's not. Now it's here and now it's not. Damn it. And it's again like this masquerade. Like I just kind of see it everywhere. But I'm also noticing the edge. It's not just like immediately everything bursts. I'm noticing that it's slowly updating somatically. So like somatically, I can find resistance. I can find the contractions in my body.
Mm-hmm.
On some level, it already start trickling down. There's not like this emotional resistance even to the contractions in the body. Does that make sense?
So when you feel the somatic contractions in the body, there's not a reaction to it.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Everything is sort of allowed to be, even though I'm finding, yeah, this is interesting. Like there's still some preference. There was less a second ago in the workshop, and now I'm noticing something. Maybe I don't know if that's it. I don't know. Maybe something is closing down already. Maybe that was a group field, that was just so rich and yummy. Maybe something's closing down. I don't know. I'm finding more of a preference, like my belly hurts right now. I'm really hungry, and there's a bit of pushing at it. So like somatically, I'm sort of there's some pain here, and I would rather it wasn't here.
Uh-huh.
But on some other level, there was that, I know it's no longer a snake, right? It's a rope.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
What about the little ghosts, the ghosts of the pain? Pain, oh, there's hunger here, and then a little pushing. Are they starting to get a little denser, a little less translucent, the arisings?
hmm, yeah, interesting, right? There's something happening simultaneously. There's still that perspective, so the light is sort of on, and I just see a bunch of make-believe ghosts, make-believe hunger and make-believe pain. But sure, it's hunger, it's pain,
Mm-hmm.
so somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like Ilona, that was she did a couple of core sessions in POK.
Yeah,
So I worked with her one-on-one
I
long time.
remember.
Yeah, I told you. And she told me this that I was like, yeah, Ilona, I'm really not sure if this is gonna continue. Like I was still like in the midst of, where's my awakening, right? And she said, don't worry. Um, she asked me, have you ever seen a soap bubble burst in slow motion?
Mm.
Right? You can go on YouTube and find like really slow motion videos of a soap bubble bursting, and it's like you pierce it, and then it stays, except it recedes, right? It just goes until it dissolves into thin air. And that's the process. So I'm finding something similar here. That like I pierce the bubble, the snake is no longer a snake, it's a rope, but it's slowly going back, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. Mm.
What's coming up for you, and how was it to lead
Oh,
this kick-ass workshop for the eight of us?
um, so rich, so rich. I loved, I loved diving into qualities together. Loved that at the beginning. And then we got to do this was the debut of playing with that kind of homeopathic thing. And you were encouraging that. Thank you for that. And then the last half an hour was really like, I need to ask you about this because I'm thinking about this video and like, maybe I had one thought to title it. I'd have to clear this with you, like, Milo in the Awakening game or something. And because it's
No, I
just
don't think Milo,
talking about the
no.
tipping point. Don't use
Yeah.
Milo's name.
No, I don't, I wouldn't. Something doesn't feel right with putting the spotlight on me, because I really felt like I was tapped into the group field and where you were taking
Mm,
us, and I was just kind of putting into words. And similarly, I feel like everything unfolded as part of your prompts, and also Raymond's, and also I forgot her name,
Cam, yeah.
Kami, and Haneen. So yeah, no,
Oh
I
gosh,
was sort of,
Milo, I love that.
yeah,
The collectiveness of it, the collectiveness of
yeah.
where
That's
we
what it
went.
felt like. It just felt like, I had the clarity, obviously, because I mean, we've been marinating in this for the past 5 days. So I had the clarity. I knew where I was going with this, but it felt
Yeah.
like the field was working this for all of us. It seemed like everyone was like, oh yeah, wow, yes.
So I might call it something like that, a collective awakening game into all itself.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Mm. And this is like, so I'm not talking about my personal experience, but the collective experience that we
Hmm.
just for the whole group. That is just mind-blowing. I mean, it's not unlike Luminous, right? Where, I mean, I want to say it was even more intense than that, because it's like eight complete strangers logging on for an hour and a half and just like pew 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 pew. Literally this, just that was crazy.
I like to play in that just so the eight complete strangers because if we can keep doing that, we can get to, Raymond speaks of that Jesus quote when two or three are together, whatever it is, their presence, their God is. It's like what we did here today. It's like it can become more and more normalized as finding that in the world when we're really with strangers on the street and people yell at us and it's just always, more and more access to this.
I have to say, I don't think I've been ever this excited to about a tipping point, because all the other tipping points were very subtle and gradual. Yeah, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Like, I've had some rapturous experiences for sure. But this one is like, holy shit, I can't wait to take it for a spin, because it's almost like I can't wait to be yelled at on the street, and just like, whew, wow, I'm being so,
Mm,
dominated right now. Just like almost that I'm yeah, yeah,
mm,
yeah, it's been really rich to, like I'm surprised that in that sort of opening, through that portal, that something so vast opened up. Like I've never expected it. I think maybe that's why it's so juicy because it came totally unexpectedly. Whereas, the other sort of pointings more towards the light, it's like, well, if when rupture is bliss and joy and love and interconnectedness appears, it's like, well, damn right it should. Whereas here, it's like I didn't expect that, the other way, right? Going to, in this direction turned out to be such a pivotal and I want to say it almost feels like this is definitely part of the path. It's not optional. That's what I'm getting. That this is really the shadow integration that so many teachers do kind of hint at, but it's difficult to really hear it until you hear it. And it doesn't feel optional. It's like I mean, by definition, right? Like if you are to become one with everything, that includes everything, not just the light.
mm,
And I'm noticing the energetic, the efforting, almost like I'm sort of starting, this is all happening now, but I'm starting to notice, the effort that goes into resisting. And it really is half like that the shadow half of my experience just takes so much energy to just like no, even though it's literally half of me, right? But it's like no, 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 no. And suddenly when it's like, oh, but it's actually light also, then like, oh my God, like there's nothing to run away from. And there's nothing to do suddenly, right? Like there's no problem because like all these monsters that had to be slain before, right? It's like, okay, well, there are no monsters anymore. Like, what the hell do I do with my sword? Fight windmills, you know? Where is this? I'm really curious. Where is Sid with all of this? Is that a tipping point that's been opening up since the workshop or since before, or I mean, since the weekend with Annalisa?
I think what you're describing, it goes in and out here, where the transparent, the translucence of seeing the being shine through it all. Then a no comes, right? Then a no, or like that hat I wore. Then a specialness comes, or some kind of resistance comes. As soon as it comes, as soon as it blends with that, it loses it, right? It loses that to see the beauty of what is. So in and out, and it's same edge, exact edge. It was the edge, yeah, same edge.
Oh,
I got a question for you.
yeah.
I am just a logistic question that I've had the recording on, still been on. Is it okay to, or how are you with including? I can cut it off when Haneen when Haneen left, or include this, and I could also include as you and I are talking. I can include both of our images or just me, and just it's all optional because it's always what works for everybody.
Uh, I don't have a problem with it per se. I'm just
I won't focus on it, won't be highlighting you. It'll be everybody.
yeah,
And this is such the gist of I love what you said about everybody. I love what you said when
yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to point at you and you said, no, it's the field, it's everybody. And I love that.
Yeah, like I don't have a problem with you uploading it, but I suppose there's a doubt in my mind how helpful this is. This seemed more like a banter between two friends, than
Mhm.
and the sort of, workshop talk. But if you believe that this might be helpful to include, then sure. I mean, you know,
Okay.
more power to the people. Yeah.
It's just naked. It's just, it's just the nakedness of it. And it's really no different than it's just that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah. And so, in closing, because the hunger starts to become more and more less transparent and more opaque. So I'm gonna go and have dinner now. But and that's also interesting, right? Because like take hunger, which is a part, and yet it's so deeply somatic, right? Like you feel it in on such a palpable level. But what I was gonna say is, if I can bring myself back to it, that as I like this has been my inquiry just in the past, 48 hours. Why? Like not why, but like why? Why am I playing this game with myself? Why do I choose this? Like why? And I find that it's like a doorway where I just like fall out of the small self and I touch, I touch divinity. It's almost like I get answers as to and they're probably coming through this very human lens, granted. But but I don't know, it feels more than just a thought.
Mhm.
As I ask, why would I choose to, experience?
So it's not a question for the mind. It's a version of a who am I?
Yeah,
You step back from it with
it's
it.
like a bit, yeah, rather than, why it's not so much like why is Milo choosing this for himself and his system and his parts. It's more like the answer that comes illuminates the big self, the consciousness, the
Yeah.
lila, right? That it's like the answer
Beautiful.
almost doesn't fit into the model of a separate self. It actually, we choose to do this.
Yeah.
Consciousness chooses to dance in this way. And from that wider perspective, suddenly kind of it fits, it fits that like, oh yeah, that's actually why I can feel it. That like that's it feels limiting to sort of label it any one thing, right? But let's call it like, yeah, there's joy in that, or that's exciting. That is an exciting
Mm.
show of light to in the deep parts.
Yes. And Milo, I would love to explore more with you what we just started today with the homeopathic, the feeling all of this. And I really am I'm very happy with how it opened in this. It felt so organic. It didn't feel different. It didn't really feel so much different than what we've been playing with, but just another including. And I
And I love the playfulness in that. I love the homeopathic prefix. That's really clever. Yeah.
it might be a new theme. It might be a new,
Yeah.
you've seen my themes, they keep changing. It might
And
be a theme of the month.
I,
Um,
instead of where my mind with it is that, I know very little about homeopathy, but I know that, that they also distill like literally that which would kill you in a normal dose, right? So like, arsenicum or something. And that's a remedy. That felt really juicy as as that recognition fell into place that like, wow, I'm alchemizing the venom, the darkness that Raymond spoke of, right? That like I'm turning towards not just something that feels slightly uncomfortable, literal sort of
mhm.
venomous cobra that is about to kill. And I'm alchemizing that, I'm seeing the light in that, and that becomes the doorway into whoo. Yeah,
Wow. Mm.
very, very cool. All right.
Mm.
Ah, mm.
uh, See you soon.
See you soon. Yeah, let's jump on a call and explore this. This feels very rich. Take it easy.